In this video, I want to show you my top 10 power chord riffs for electric guitar. These start off from absolute beginner up to pretty advanced. But before I look at the riffs, I want to answer a similar question as to what Marty McFly asked Doc Brown in Back to the Future when he said, "What is a gigawatt? What is a power chord?" So I'm using my Epiphone Les Paul, which was actually the guitar that I learnt power chords on many years ago, nearly 20 years ago. And if you've been playing guitar a little amount of time, you will know that some chords are major and some chords are minor. But a power chord is neither, because it doesn't have the major third to tell us whether it's major or minor. It's just the root and the fifth. And it can also be the root, fifth, and the octave, because we just count the octave as another root. The easiest way we can play a power chord is just with one finger, and this would be an E power chord. The root note is the E itself, and then here's the fifth. It's one string down, that's the fifth interval. We can then play the A power chord like this, we can play a D power chord like this. That's the easiest way we can play power chords, and that's exactly what we did in my Play Johnny Be Good with one finger. It was using those three power chords. That would be a great starting point, but we've done that one already, right? So I want to give you something else, and my number one song is going to be a Green Day song. Green Day, bags of power chords, played in all different manner of ways. But if we stick a capo second fret with those three chords, E, A, and the D, we can play Know Your Enemy by Green Day. Cool riff. I've broken that down more before, but you know, A power chord to a D power chord and an E, that's the whole thing. Let's get on now to probably the most played power chord riff of all time. Smoke on the Water, you guys all know this. However, I just said a power chord was the root and the fifth, so it's like this shape. But there's another way of playing a power chord which is like this. It's just how we move this shape via the neck. But I said it was a root and a fifth. Now sometimes that root can be on top, and that's what's happening here. This would be a G power chord, but this is also a G power chord. A lot of people learn this riff on the middle two strings only. That's how I've taught it before, but so that we've got more control over those first two notes, we play them here. So now you know what I believe to be the proper way to play Smoke on the Water. Now let's look at something which combines the open power chords with these higher fret power chords with a bit of Def Leppard. If there were only three power chords to learn, I would recommend learning these three. We've already covered the E power chord and the A power chord using the open strings. We're now looking at a second fret power chord, which is a B in this case. And this is a lot of songs. This is Wheatus, Teenage Dirtbag, Teenage Dirtbag Baby. And it's not too far away from my fourth choice, which is I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett, or the Joan Jett version of it. Now we get into my favourite way that power chords are used, and this is in combination with some single notes and often just this third fret note, this G note here. So we're playing a G chord like this, but in this case we're just hitting one single note. And it's often with this little, what's called a blues curl, and it's very classic rock. And then to the B, back to this note. That's Joan Jett's way of playing I Love Rock and Roll. Next up, another power chord classic that a lot of you guys will know, but actually starts off with one of the most unusual ways to bend a string I've ever come across. It's a bend behind the nut being here. This is Iron Man. The most important lesson to learn from this song, though, is the importance of actually sliding these power chords when we're playing them in this fashion, rather than lifting our fingers off at all. As soon as I start playing this riff, I'm just sliding, keeping the same very light amount of pressure down at all times. And for this part, pick, slide, pick, slide. That's how we do that. Sliding to sound the next chord is the way that a lot of this is played, and a lot of power chord riffs are played as well. Next up, another one that a lot of you guys will know, Seven Nation Army. Lots of different ways to play this one. Let's just look at the power chord way of playing this. We are playing the riff, the bass riff, all on the string 5, and then keeping the third finger and keeping this power chord shape. Just moving with that first finger. It's keeping this shape and sliding it around, which is the trick. To play more accurate to the original recording, we actually get a hint of the major third in this one. But often people just play it the power chord way, so we had to include this as a power chord riff. There's a full tutorial with that one and with my band playing it, so you can jam along with my band on my YouTube channel now. I'll leave a link to it at the top of the description and on the screen now. Another common thing you should know about power chords is they often kind of stick to the dots or in between the dots, which means they're a lot easier to remember where to put your fingers. You don't really need to know the names of them or be able to read them in sheet music or follow a chord sheet. You're just following the dots. And a riff that follows the dots really well is Rock You Like a Hurricane. So this plays an E power chord. You can play it at the 7th fret on the open string, and then 3, 5, and then 3, 5, and then to 7. And all the time, every power chord I play, I'm always hitting where these inlays are and where the dots are on the top of my guitar. And when you're playing stood up and rocking out in a band, you can't actually see your strings at all, because it would be kind of at this angle, and all you actually see is this. All you see is that part of the neck. So you have to be using the dots and using the feel, and that's why it can look so easy to play power chord songs, and when you try it's really difficult, because we're relying on the feel of these chords and where our fingers are on the strings, and that's how playing guitar can, like Chuck Berry said, become like ringing a bell. Taking that to a much more challenging riff, we have an absolute classic, You Really Got Me. That's the original version. The Van Halen version's a little bit more played in a different way, a bit more of a classic rock way actually. This way of playing power chords in this fashion I don't do too often, unless I'm playing punk or unless I'm playing some of these classic songs actually. But You Really Got Me has this 2-fret move that we have to do really quickly. A way that we can do that is actually by pivoting with the thumb. Keep your thumb still and keep it around the G note, so keep it around the 3rd fret. And when you go from here, you're actually swinging between the thumb like this, or from a pivot point of the thumb. That, hopefully you can see from that camera, is a really good way to do this 2-fret slide, which is often needed to play any power chord song. 2 frets is often where it sounds good. Another popular power chords band, and kind of a band that revived a lot of this punk sound for the indie genre anyway, is the Arctic Monkeys. Here's probably their biggest hit and their breakthrough hit, Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor. Power chords galore in this song. Again, this 2 fret slide happen an awful lot. Some open power chords, so the A chord here rather than here. There'd be nothing wrong with playing it there. There's the open one again. Something to get used to, because it feels very different doing this than like this. Moving the thumb can be something you have to get used to for that one. But that brings me to my final choice. It's a personal choice, of course. Let me know your favourite power chord songs in the comments below. Hopefully I'll do a tutorial for any that I haven't featured in this list. We started with Green Day. Let's finish with Green Day. Here is Basket Case. Alright, so that has power chords but palm muted, and then this when we palm mute and when we lift off of the palm mute. It's probably that final technique to nail that people who can play power chords kind of struggle with, because it's not to do with this hand, it's all actually to do with the strumming hand with the picking hand. So I've got a full tutorial for that one. And how you can get your palm muting to sound that good. As I say, let me know your thoughts on power chords. What are your favourite songs and what breakthroughs did you have? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll leave a couple of helpful videos now on the screen that you can watch that might help you further and might be enjoyable.